I am ready to open up about my experience with Trauma, the 2017 Chilean horror film. So, with a name like Trauma, I figured it's gotta be worth a watch, and it was. It wouldn't rate like in my top horror movies, and we're gonna talk about that. But first, let's just get into a little bit about what it actually is and some of what makes it worth it. So, basic premise, you have these four young women who are going on a road trip just to enjoy a weekend in the countryside. And as you can imagine, their fun weekend gets interrupted by a bad guy and it goes horribly wrong. The bad guy is a dude named Juan, and what you can gather is that he's the son of a man who was a very brutal military leader and was basically forced at a very young age to become brutal like his father, and now he is passing that on in the town he lives in and to his own son. And it's pretty twisted. The movie actually starts with probably the most brutal opening scene I've ever seen, and I can't give too much detail about it. It's basically Juan being forced into a very bad situation with his own mother at the hands of his dad. It's really quite sick. Then it goes into the opening credits, and it opens where you have two of your main characters, Cami and her girlfriend, Julia, having a very happy, intimate time. And this is a theme that you'll see throughout the movie, is this juxtaposition between Juan and the darkness of his life and the things that he does, and then the four women who are supposed to be more like modern day. I guess Juan is more from like the Chile of the 70s. I don't know real politics here, so no comment. And then the women from more of a bright and like liberal progressive present, if you will. It's supposed to take place in 2011. So you have a lot of these scenes of darkness contrasted with light. And that's interesting. As a matter of fact, I would have liked to delve into that a whole lot more when watching. The movie's about an hour and 45 minutes, and they do have plenty of kind of gory, disturbing, upsetting scenes that, for me, probably topped the charts a little bit. Now, what would have made the movie a lot more impactful for me was actually if they had maybe taken out scenes with minor characters, scenes that are really drawn out for suspense or for the sake of being disturbing, like this one scene which lasts about 10 to 15 minutes, and it is an assault scene. I'm not saying that it can't be there, I'm just saying it could have made its point in a lot shorter amount of time. I think we were supposed to have a lot of sympathy for the main characters. And the reason I wanted to but felt I couldn't sympathize enough was because they have, on the surface, so much potential character development and character conflicts to explore, and they just don't. So you never get to know them on the level you'd like to. For instance, I mentioned Cami and Julia. Well, they're going on this trip with Cami's very protective sister Andrea and her cousin Magda, and the dynamic you have is that Magda really likes Cami and Julia. In fact, you could argue Magda and Julia like each other a little too much, assuming that they're going for monogamy here. And Andrea doesn't like Julia. I think this is because she doesn't like her as a person, she thinks she's a cheater or whatnot, but I would have liked that to be a little more clear. As a matter of fact, you have a scene where Magda and Julia are getting kind of cuddly together, and Cami seems totally fine with it. So if that's the case, I don't really see a problem here. In short, I feel like the story of the main characters could have been a lot cleaner, maybe a little more on the nose in some ways, because there was just too much going on that I wanted to explore and we didn't. That would have made me feel a lot more for what they were going through. Same with Juan, and this isn't really to sympathize because by the time he's an adult doing his thing, it really feels like it's too late to really sympathize anymore. But the flashbacks from his youth are actually really intriguing because you see this subtle development of the little boy who is scared and wanting to get away from evil dad to suddenly, the dad's the only one left, and he can either continue suffering and getting, ridiculed, or he can conform and give in to what he's being forced to become, which he obviously does. This movie obviously has this focus on trauma and darkness and how it can destroy. For me, the messaging was kind of darkness comes out on top every time. You could actually debate that when you look at like the way ending scene. Now, again, if I were going to talk about this for hours, we'd delve into it. But for the sake of brevity here, I'll kind of leave that as it is. Now, what else can I say about Trauma? I think the soundtrack really kept me coming back. I'm not an expert on music or anything, which I've probably said before, but I just really like the soundtrack and I'm still listening to it. If you are willing to give it a shot and appreciate it for what it is, I think there's a lot to appreciate. There is a lot of squickiness and psychological disturbances, and there are some things that I felt could have made it stronger, but I will say that I think it is a really good sign if a movie has left you wanting more. So I think in a lot of ways this was good. I would do it a little bit differently if I knew how to make movies and write screenplays and stuff, which I don't. But it's worth a shot. It's worth a watch, for sure. And with that, I still want to say more, but there just isn't. So thank you so much for watching this review. Let me know what you think in the comments below, especially if you have seen Trauma. What did you think of it? Do you agree or disagree with what I've had to say here? I'd really love to know what you think. And with that, I will see you next time.